Episode 6, Snapping Towels. I'm Cam Williams here with my co-host and my partner, as always, Kyle Foote.
Happy to be back. Not the most exciting weekend for snapping towels, but an interesting one nonetheless.
Few good games, some interesting results, but not definitely not a slate filled with what we call bangers. Um, Cornell, Penn State, man. I mean, Penn State, the Ivy Slayer strikes again. What can you say?
Coined last episode, the Ivy Slayer, Penn State, back at it again. And now we know who it is. They are them. They took down Cornell in Ithaca.
10-6. It wasn't like
Shocking.
there
Shocking.
no confusion about it. I mean, I spent probably 7 to 10 minutes of an obscenely long soliloquy last episode talking about how good Cornell is. Um, I mean, Penn State to go to Ithaca, hold Cornell to 6 goals. They scored 10 goals. They had 10 point scores. The Trainer brothers accounted for 5 goals. Jack Trainer had a disgusting diving backhanded goal. I mean, Penn State has beaten Penn, Yale, and Cornell 3 straight weeks, which would probably be the top 3 Ivies going into the season. So,
Yeah, it
Penn
looked
State's
like.
for real.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they hurt him with a two-man game pretty much the whole time. They couldn't get around it. I don't know what was going on with Adler and the defense, but they kind of didn't. They didn't make it a they made it tough for Cornell to slide essentially, and with nifty ball work and good writing and causing some turnovers in the middle of the field, they were able to wreak absolute havoc on the Big Red, which
Yeah,
no
it was a
one's done in
really
a year.
physical game.
It's crazy. I mean, Penn State's bringing the juice. We gotta get Joe Bucci on here to talk shop, talk about this new defense he's drummed up.
Seriously, for Penn State to be 3-11 last year and just be now sitting at 5-1, 3 straight wins, Yale, Penn, Cornell. Cornell, Final Four team from a year ago, all 3 of them. Nobody would have thought you were crazy if you had at least one of them in your Final Four for this year. They're going to beat Marquette this weekend, going to be 6-1, and then they have an absolute showdown next weekend against Maryland. So it'll be interesting. Penn State could win the Big Ten.
The Big Ten's wide open in my book.
Wide open.
You
Yeah.
could have a sneaky Ohio State kind of sneak in there at the fourth seed and then show up and, clamp down on defense and score some goals. Postseason lacrosse. It's kind of reminded me of like an old Patriot League matchup where,
Agreed.
you've got the Colgate or you got the Lee. Sorry, you definitely don't have Colgate. You've got the Lehigh Army Loyola mix where anything could kind of happen on a Thursday night. So yeah, that's what I think is going to go down the Big Ten. Obviously, it's good talent. It's really good talent, and Penn State's hungry. And I think everyone's kind of smelled blood as far as Maryland. I don't think they're nearly as good as what they were last year, but maybe that's what they want people to think. We'll see. We'll see
Yeah, I mean,
down
I
the
still think
stretch.
I still think they're built to win the conference. I'm not going to guarantee that they will, but they definitely have the ability to. And
I mean, the way
last
Penn
year,
State's playing right now, I don't think you can
Penn
tell
State's the
me.
front runner. I agree. But I mean, Maryland coming off last year, arguably the greatest team ever assembled. Um, you don't want to compare them to that. But the Big Ten's going to be really, really interesting down the stretch. Penn State, Maryland next weekend. I did not circle that preseason as one of my marquee matchups. Don't think you did either.
Did
But
not.
I will definitely.
Now
I
we
think
know
that
Penn
might be
State's
worth a
coming for
free trial of the
vengeance.
Big Ten Network.
I think we might have to. Also, a sneaky game I want to talk about that took place. The Spiders almost took down our Hoyas. Really
Yeah,
gnarly game. I believe it was OT.
um,
Cannot be confirmed if it was done.
it was
If it
not
was
OT. It was a 1 goal game. Um, you know, Minikis and Dordovic continue to show up. After that, it's like you need
Bundy had
more from
two.
Graham Bundy.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
you'd like this Declan McDermott character to register some more points. Nicky Solomon's doing his thing with 2 goals out of the midfield, but you really need more out of Graham Bundy, who's been like, a hell of a player for the Hoyas the last 2 or 3 years.
There, the goalie situation still with the woes. Michael Scharfenberger, 29%.
Yeah, that's no good.
Doesn't get subbed out. I like that they stuck with him in a tight ball game.
I agree. I
Five
mean, he
save,
earned it.
five saves on the game.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
that's not a
tough.
good game. I think he earned it with the Princeton win. And as we discussed last weekend, I believe we were talking about Princeton and kind of the 2 goalie approach. You know, at
Oh,
this point,
yeah.
I think you got to go with your guy. And if you're committed to this
100%.
kid and Danny Hinks is,
Clearly he is. He was 29%. The Richmond goal was 59%. Had 19 saves.
yeah,
That's a 1 goal game right there. You have one goalie save the ball 5 times and one save it 19 times. Clearly Georgetown's the better team. One goalie showed up. Georgetown could have taken some
yeah. I mean, that's the difference in the game.
bad shots,
29% between
but
the
yeah.
pipes. Like you're going to lose or almost lose to an inferior team. I want to give credit to Richmond, man. I mean, they've already played Maryland, Virginia, Georgetown, and Towson, who's never an easy out. That's a hell of a schedule before getting into conference play. Um,
Yeah.
Dalton Young and the Spiders are definitely
They're playing
definitely
well
trying to
too.
show out
A lot of
post SoCon.
wins. A lot of wins for Dalton Young and the Spiders. Um, Back to our regular schedule program. I just thought I was tracking that as it was happening. Very interesting. I believe it was on Flow TV, which Georgetown somehow ends up on every week. But one game we really talked about and we thought was going to be a little bit better of a game was our Pios going to New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah, no fireworks here.
Just a
And
gritty
Yale,
game in the
yeah,
snow.
gritty game, bad weather, New
Oh,
Haven, Denver making the cross country flight, back-to-back weekends. Nothing new for the Pios. Yale had it in control. Like it was like I think it was like 10-5 going into the fourth quarter. Denver went on a little bit of a mini run there to make it, a little bit more respectable. But the only win for the Ivy League this weekend. I mean, Dartmouth didn't play. Everybody else lost except for Yale. Brandow came to play. Got to give him credit. I don't want to say
usually
bagging on
does.
him last week, but we were
Usually
we were
does.
we were asking for more from Brandow last week. 3-2 against Denver, an 11-9 win. That's a nice day.
It's not bad.
Leo Johnson, though, only 1 assist, nothing from Bragg. Um,
Nothing
they're
from
gonna need
Lions.
to
Nothing from Lions.
they're gonna need more
Which is a
production out
good
of those
sign, I
guys.
guess. You know?
I guess, but I mean, I think they play Cornell this weekend. Like they're gonna need Leo Johnson, Bragg, and Lyons to really show up in the Ivy League play. And we were talking pre-show. I mean, last year, I mean, again, I want to give the Ivy League a lot of credit. I know I don't do that enough on this show. I want to give them a lot of credit. I mean, their out of conference schedule is incredibly impressive. I mean, week after week, they're playing really good teams. Last year they were winning these games by 1 or by 2 in overtime. This year they're losing them. So the Ivy League play that we're about to get into is going to be extremely important. And I think they're going to be lucky to get 3 teams in this year. So these games are going to be monumental.
I like that call. Yeah, I don't see what their early season losses. I think the committee's very down on the Ivy, and you could see kind of like the Big Ten sneaking in there. Like now there's room for Penn
It's
State
a
to
good call.
not win the Big Ten and make the tournament still. Um, maybe Loyola sneaks in without a win in the Patriot League. So it's kind of evened it out for the second best team in a couple conferences to have a look now, rather than the Ivy winning every out of conference game, as was last year, and then beating each other in season on their head
Right.
to heads.
That's another good point. It was just kind of like they they were all
They
beating each
beat
other.
every ACC team and then beat each other.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
was odd.
like,
Nobody separated. You're right. I didn't. I forgot about that and didn't bring that up. You're right.
well,
So,
that's why I do what I do. It's truly talent. Back to the schedule. Picked Harvard to win. Give Michigan some respect. I need to
give me
give them
some
some
credit.
respect. They're playing good ball. This
They
this
are.
unit this unit's grown up a bit. They're a little older. Um, Not impressed with Harvard this
No,
season. They
no. I
kind of
mean,
had that their sophomore lull, you could call it.
yeah. There's definitely a bit of a sophomore slump happening in Cambridge
Mm.
right now. I couldn't agree more. Give credit to Michigan. Harvard was up like 9-3 at one point. Um,
Yeah,
and Michigan strung in a pretty
Ryan
insane comeback.
Cohen has an absolute cannon.
Got really
Um,
hot. Zawada,
Michael
Cohen.
Boeheim Michael
Yep.
Boeheim's their guy.
Yeah.
Not a 9 point day is impressive, especially on Harvard. We know Harvard's defense is a couple of piled cones out there just trying to, mark territory. They don't really do much, but still 9 points is 9 points. And to give up 19 goals is got to be frustrating for the Crimson. I mean, just looking at it,
So
that
I'm gonna say something. This might be a hot take, and Michigan players and alumni might not like this. This could be the biggest win in program history, depending on how Harvard fares the rest of the year. I know they beat Ohio State that one year,
they
and that was a
beat
big
they
deal for
beat
them
they beat Penn State one year.
with with their guys,
Definitely with O'Keefe.
with Ament
It
and
was
O'Keefe.
a year after Amen.
Okay. I think this is
Um,
competing for that. I mean, Harvard is a tournament team from a year ago, had high hopes coming into the year. They smoked Michigan last year. They returned everybody, and this win got them back into the top 20 and, you know, provides some momentum for a potential, I don't think it's likely, but a potential first ever NCAA tournament berth, depending on how the rest of the season goes. Um, Obviously, they need to have some bigger wins than this to get into the NCAA tournament. But
you know what they need to do? They need to beat Notre Dame this weekend. That would be the biggest win in
I mean,
program
Notre Dame's the
history.
best team in the country, in my opinion. I mean, what they did to Ohio State this past weekend, just absolutely undressing
Mhm.
them. I went on this crazy rant last week about how good Cornell was. They beat Ohio State by 3, and that made me say that Notre Dame absolutely just torched torched Ohio State. They
Held
had
them to three.
absolutely nothing.
Held them to three. I mean, that's got to be a little bit of last year in the mix still from the Kevin Corrigan coaching debacle of a lifetime. You guarantee they didn't short stick Jack Myers again. Therefore,
Chris
doing what
Fake
they
ate his lunch. I mean, you got to feel for Jack Myers back-to-back weeks as Gavin Adler and Chris Fake, two
I mean, you
absolute
want to play
men.
big time ball, you're gonna get
Yeah,
a
yeah. I
defenseman
mean,
every week. I don't feel
yeah.
bad for him necessarily. He's out. It's also, in my opinion, the most overrated attackman in the country. I don't see what he
It's
does.
kind of starting to look like that. I mean,
I don't.
I like his game, and I was really high on him preseason, but you know,
I was too. He's a big body. I mean, you could see what he does against a short stick from last year when that happened that one time.
it's also a different player when he's got a guy like Jackson Reed with him. Ohio State's options. I think his supporting cast is pretty limited, to be completely
Sure.
honest.
Yeah.
But I don't
No, you're
necessarily
not
disagree
wrong.
with you.
But and then on the other hand, it's like I guess you do lose a lot of weapons from last year, but I mean he's got 25 points in
Yeah, but he's
7 games, and you add in Air Force, Cleveland State in
yeah.
there, and Detroit Mercy. I bet a lot of those points come from those wins. Yeah, I mean, it's also the eye test for me. Like he doesn't do it speed, stick works. At his
No,
point.
he, he
It's nothing crazy for me.
doesn't
He's
jump off the page anywhere physically.
he's
He's
big.
he's a
He's
nice
big.
sized kid. He's got a good stick. He's a smart player. He's always got his head up. Like I like his game, but I can't disagree with you. I mean, there were really sky high hopes for him to lead the Buckeyes this
And
year to a hell of a year, and it's been I'll call it underwhelming thus far. Still have 60% of the season left. Got Big Ten play. Who knows what he's going to do? So you got to give this kid conference play as a senior
yeah,
before the jury's out. But it hasn't been a great start for Jack Myers and the Buckeyes.
yeah, just real quick, the three hitter that was pretty much the nail in the coffin for the snapping towels parlay this week was Rutgers Princeton. Princeton dropped an OT to Rutgers at Rutgers. Cuse hosting Hopkins and losing. I was all horned up on Petra out the window.
Terrible seeing them lose on Mikey Powell's retirement ceremony. But keep going.
I agree. Also, that ceremony was legendary. He is
Unreal.
definitely a top three GOAT. Um, great attackman, honestly. Young attackman. If you're not watching him, that's your first mistake. Anyways, Cuse Hopkins, huge bummer. Anytime Hopkins wins, it's a bummer. And then Penn Villanova was our WTF moment of the weekend. These kids share a lot of things. You didn't think this was going to go down this way. It's a bummer.
Really tough
It
for
could be
us.
the nail in the coffin if Penn doesn't win the Ivy League.
I mean,
And I've
look, if you're
said nail
watching
in
the
the
show for
coffin
picks, you should
twice
probably just
in the
move on.
last two sentences. I think that's kind of the season in a nutshell, though. If we predicted that Villanova was going to beat Penn, I think we'd have multiple stacks in our betting accounts, which we do not. That bet is Drake worthy. Yeah, I think give credit to the Wildcats.
Dude, Villanova's pretty good. I mean, if you look at what Villanova's done this year, I mean, I knew that was going to be, a tough game, especially Penn coming off a battle midweek against St. Joe's. But
Right.
Villanova sitting at 5-1, they beat Penn State. So let's not.
Yeah, also it was just ISO ball. Clearly, Penn thought they were too good to slide. I didn't have eyes on this. Um, but it's kind of a little story in the box score that reads four kids had a goal not assisted. Three kids had one goal and one assist. And then one kid had two G's and an apple. A lot of ISO ball, a lot of one passes, not a lot of two slides from Penn. And, Penn's box score had 2 goals, two apples from Hanley. Then it goes 2 goals, one goal, one goal. And then two kids had some apples in there. Other
Yeah,
than that, no one did shit.
yeah, it was a
So
pretty boring game. Looks like Villanova's goalie had a nice day.
I was just gonna
Uh,
say, yeah, usually have a kid
but
in the pipes. But so did Penn's.
dude, yeah, yeah, okay. Emmett Carroll, 21 saves. Yeah, it was a rock fight.
70%.
It was a rock fight.
No game safe. It's early season ball. This is what happens in these first 5 games before we get into conference action. But yeah, that could be the thorn in Penn season if they don't win the Ivy or they don't win a lot of Ivy League games down the stretch.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I mean, depending on how Villanova fares, I mean, what if I mean Vanilla if Villanova runs train the Big East and turns out to be better than Denver and Georgetown, which remains to be seen. But Villanova with the Penn State and Penn win to this point,
It's
I
not
mean,
bad.
that's a top 10 resume on March 15th, in my opinion. Sitting at 5-1 with a Penn State and Penn win, that's a top 10 resume. So
We
Villanova's a
got
real team.
Drexel, Hofstra, Delaware,
Lost to Yale.
play Monmouth next. It's kind of a shitty schedule in my eyes, but it's like, you know, I love an ACC team in there. Um,
Yeah, you got Big East play. You're playing the Ivies, who are, the best conference last year. You got Yale, Penn, and Brown on the schedule. I think Brown's guys will be back by the time they play them. Um, so,
really well.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Last game, I think we want to talk about, we mentioned
Uh,
Princeton Rutgers. Um, it's too bad.
Nothing to say about this one. OT burner.
OT burner. I
I
mean,
didn't know there was a trophy involved in this matchup.
I remember seeing that last year and being kind of shocked.
That's news. I guess every random rivalry has a fucking trophy.
I mean, I understand it's this Jersey thing, but
Do they even play every year?
look, you're asking the wrong guy. Two programs that I don't track that closely, Rutgers in particular. But look, man, Princeton's got to figure it out. And all these Ivy Leagues, I mean, they've got room to make it up with this Ivy League schedule. But Rutgers has weapons, man. I mean, you're seeing a guy like Ross Scott, who a year ago was, I mean, I was he all Big Ten? I mean, he's an all Big Ten player, at least,
Absolutely.
at least,
Um,
if not
yeah,
HM All American. He's at like the bottom of their
yeah.
box scores every week, and they're winning games. So Rutgers is pretty good.
Yeah, he's taking a lot of the brunt. I mean, you could tell he's getting a lot of attention. Knobloch continues to ball, and this guy Dante Claus
Yeah,
is throwing together. It's interesting to make that point because they still got the win. And Brian Cameron he's a finisher. He's been playing really well for
yeah, he's
them.
a good player.
But on the other end, again, we have Alex Slusher and Sam English doing nothing. Sam English
I
had
know it's the Coulter Maxey show.
7 shots, 1 goal. It's
Christian Ronda showed up.
I don't speak on his name. Didn't
I mean,
respond
dude,
to it.
Rutgers sitting at
Didn't
six and
respond to an
one.
interview DM, or actually a text message. Got his number. He's
Rutgers
from the
sitting at
town.
6-1, having beaten Loyola, Princeton. 1 goal loss to a good Army team. Rutgers is a solid squad. It just
I wouldn't
goes.
want to see Rutgers in
No, dude, just
the
keep
first
goes to
game
show
of
you
the
the Big Ten's
tournament.
wide open, wide open. So actually, the last game we're going to discuss here, uh, Kyle's Hounds going to Durham, getting absolutely run off the field.
Mm, can happen. It seemed a little bit of a misty night. I couldn't call it on the broadcast. Either the lens was foggy or the weather was a little sus. Kind of a spooky, eerie night that
It was. That's a great, beautiful picture you just painted.
uh that's never in the Hounds' favor down in Durham. Coming off spring break, distractions can happen. I feel as they were dialed in, it was one of those where the ball was not going their way at all in the first 8 minutes. And we talked about in the pre-show, you had a good point that I'll let you riff on, but the energy was there. It was just this weird thing that can happen in the game of lacrosse, and it did not go the Hounds' favor.
Duke was white hot early on, and basically what happened was,
Mm.
for our viewers who watched Cuse Duke the weekend before, or who listened to the show and heard us talk about it, I believe we referred to it as Pipe City, Utah. Um,
In
you know,
upstate New York.
yeah, basically every shot that hit the pipe in the first quarter against Cuse for Duke went in against Loyola.
Mm.
And I think it was 10-1 fast. Um,
Dude,
so Duke looked sharp. What can you say? That'll happen on a Friday night in Durham. If you don't come in with your A game and
you
they're
need a little bit
playing,
of luck too.
yeah, if they're
You need a
playing
little bit
well
of
and
luck.
you're not going into Durham,
It was
standalone
face
game
off
Friday
win,
night,
quick
it's over.
goal.
Yeah.
Talk about, and it was a showout game for Eamon McAdory or Andrew
Andrew
McAdory.
McAdory,
Yeah, Andrew. You
three and
never
six on
want
the
to
night.
play. You never want to play Duke and have one of their star players have the best game of their career.
Yeah,
Let's say that.
it's a good point.
That's an easy way to be in a little bit over your head. I feel for my Hounds. I've been in the situation before, believe it or not. Um, but
I think they'll be better for
they're
it,
only getting
honestly.
better. It
I think they'll be
happens.
better for it.
It's
Like they
happened to
came
me,
out in the second half and played pretty
dude.
well. So
I remember, yeah, back when they had Miles Jones and some crazy teams, and we played them at home, and there's some big bar crawl going on. We didn't have the fans behind us, and they came into Ridley and just kind of ran us off the field the same way. We saw them in the first round of the playoffs at Ridley, due to them not winning a lot in the ACC and some crazy stuff happening. We saw them at home and just torched them when it mattered. So they'll learn. A little story for the kids, a little bedtime story. On to this
I
week's
think they'll be
picks.
fine. I really do think that
I'm not worried
Loyola's
about
going to be
them.
fine. Yeah.
I'm excited to see him play Army. Until then, I
A
have
couple
nothing
weeks
to
from
say
now, yeah,
about the
it'll be an
Hounds.
absolute rager. This is an interesting weekend. I mean, I think Yale Cornell could be an
A
absolute,
little bit of an off weekend, but
but some
we
really interesting games, particularly in the Ivy
and
League.
I
You
feel
know, I'm
like we've
sure our
learned
listeners are
there have been no off weekends. Uh, we've been as
true.
surprised as it gets this year. So
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you just start on Saturday at noon. You have an absolute slugfest. Yale Cornell. I mean,
must wins.
must win for Cornell for sure. Cornell does not want to be sitting at 2-4. I can promise you that.
No.
Um, no, not 2-4. That'd be Penn. Cornell, Yale, both one-loss teams. Um, I'm going with Cornell to go to New Haven and beat the Bulldogs. U6
Mm.
after coming off that Penn State loss, I think they regroup and score a lot more than 6 goals this weekend.
All right. I'm going with the hometown team of Hart or New Haven, Connecticut, the Yale Bulldogs. I think
Big
they're
day for
taxed. They
LJ.
won. Big day. We'll see about him. I think it's a big day for Brandow
Okay.
going up against Cursed. I think Adler, I think he needs to. I don't think Erlin's playing great ball right now. I think Yale's bench scoring last week was a huge bonus for their team. Take Johnson lines out, you still beat a Denver that we thought had a great chance of winning that game. I'm going Yale Bulldogs.
Penn Princeton. This is a must win. That other game, I think the
Why do I
loser
feel
of
like
that.
this is like kind of a toilet bowl game?
Look, I think that the winner,
Like I'm
the
like,
loser of that other game will be fine. The loser of this game is in some serious trouble.
yeah, some shit.
Yeah.
They're absolutely looking at the bottom at their locker, just waiting to clean that thing out if they lose this game. I'm taking Penn. I'm taking Penn at a must win. And Rutgers has the same. I mean, Princeton has the same juice coming off that Rutgers game. That it's eerily similar of a
They're both
situation for
in-state
both teams. The
rivals,
coaches
one
are
goal
saying the
losses.
same message right now.
Yep.
Um, Second time I've hit the mic tonight. That's good.
I'm taking the Penn Quakers as well. I mean, I just think,
So we split and then we come back together.
yeah. I mean, I think Sam Hanley is
Let,
not going to lose this game.
let me throw you a little curveball quick. We'll hop out of the Ivy. We'll hop back into Ivy Junior, the Patriot League, in which Cam and I both played in. Army Lehigh.
So, I know from personal experience, knowing those two programs well,
Mm.
that it's going to be a physical day. I think
Oh,
both teams are going to be sore on Sunday. I don't think Lehigh has the firepower to hang with Army this year.
mm,
Lehigh lost a couple key transfers,
yeah.
Cursed to Syracuse, that number 31, I can't think of his name, at
To
Duke,
Duke, yeah.
solid player for Duke this year. They graduated some guys last year.
I think it's Schilling or something.
Yeah, Army's good, man. I think Army's for real. I think Army and Loyola are on a collision course.
Thomas Schelling.
And I don't want to poo-poo BU too much, because they're,
He
they'll
has 2 goals for Duke this year.
some big ones against Cuse. But I mean, look, if he's getting minutes at Duke, like he was
Yeah, he'd
probably
be
pretty good at
helping him
Lehigh.
out. He'd be
Yeah,
helping him
he was
out.
good at Lehigh. I think Army wins. Army's better. Army and Loyola are on a collision course. I think BU will be around, but I think Army and Loyola are the class of the league,
Ooh,
and Army puts it on them in Bethlehem.
I'll back you there. Don't care much for Lehigh. I got the Black Knights.
What about Michigan Notre Dame?
This is at Michigan. That
Correct.
means it will be within 5 goals. I think Notre Dame wins by 5 or more.
I think Notre Dame wins by 10.
10?
Yeah. I'm
Ooh.
telling you, dude, Notre Dame is the best team in the country right now. They're on a mission to
Woo-hoo-hoo.
prove everyone wrong. I gave Michigan some love at the beginning of the show. I don't do that very
Mhm.
often. I think they're a solid squad. I think Notre Dame is in a different class, and they go absolutely off against Michigan.
Yeah, so we both have Notre Dame on that, whether it's 5 or 10. Um,
That'll be an
dealer's
interesting score to
choice.
revisit next week.
Curious about the over under. If you see it, tweet at us, whatever.
Please do.
Okay, let's talk about this quick, even though it has no relevance. Kind of a toilet bowl, just pending how things have shaken out. It would be a circled matchup. Brown Harvard. Brown still got their guys out. They've still been managed to put a good product out there. Harvard has their guys, hasn't put out a great product. What do you think?
Harvard or Brown got absolutely just washed by UNC 19-6 this
Well,
past
they have
weekend,
no guys.
and I'm
Simmons.
not in love with UNC this year, especially not their
Ah,
offense. So giving up 19 goals to them does not bode well. I know Harvard can score.
yeah, but their defense is
Um,
just as bad.
I'm taking the Crimson. Taking the Crimson.
Mm,
Sounds like you're a Brown guy today.
I'll be a Brown guy. It's
That's what it
at
sounds like.
home. They need a win. Someone's got to step up. Harvard's coming off a loss. What do you know? Two Ivies playing each other coming off a loss. Seems to be the story this season, but hey, they had their glory last year. Um, the
One more
biggest
game before we get into the game of the week.
hit me.
Denver, Ohio State on Sunday. I think that's kind of an interesting matchup.
Denver, Ohio State.
Yeah. At Denver.
I think Denver wins.
I think Denver wins too. Ohio State's going to be desperate for a win, coming off an embarrassment against Notre Dame, coming off getting handled
Sure.
against Cornell. Um,
I just think Denver's more versatile in the field. I mean, their LSM's great, 52. I don't know his name, but
Denver has more players. Denver wins.
they hung in with Yale hard. It was shitty weather. They should have gotten a better bounce. I think that Yale game should have been a little closer. Um, Yale's a top 5 team, probably top 8 when it's all said and done.
Top 8, 7, 8 team. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I think Ohio State's not hanging with a team like that anytime soon. I mean, we saw what happened with Cornell. So, uh,
Game of the week.
yeah, sick. Virginia, Maryland. I mean, last year was a complete domination. This is at Virginia. You know they remember the shellacking they took from Maryland twice last year. But it's going to be a game. Peyton Cormier's been out with injuries. I mean, his replacement's been great. Shout out to that kid. He had 100 goals against Hopkins. His name is Patrick McIntosh from Palo Alto.
Yeah, McIntosh. I think he's a 4-year guy.
There's no A in there. It's MCINTOS.
I think it's still pronounced
TOS.
McIntosh.
That's some
But yeah,
Cali. That's some
4-year
Cali stuff.
guy who's been, grinding for 4 or 5 years now. They have the number one recruit is the fifth attackman. I can't think of his name. I think his name is,
Sutherland.
yeah, Truett Sunderland.
Yeah.
And, you know, uh, who was on that game? I think Kark was on that game, that
Yeah.
Hopkins Virginia game, and he brought up how it was kind of a program move, kind of a nod to McIntosh, to give him the start, over Sunderland.
He had
I
like
think it's a,
six
I think it's a
G's.
pretty cool move too, and for the kid to come in and just
I mean,
bury
they needed,
six.
yeah. I mean, sure, you can give like a lot of credit to Lars for that moral decision he decided to make, but You
They
look
needed a
at
goal scorer. I mean, this kid
you
Sunderland's
need
a
a
ball
lefty
carrier.
finisher. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a dodging ball
you're right.
carrier.
You're right.
I'm like,
You're right.
yeah, it's not like if this kid Sutherland was a big lefty attackman Canadian with unbelievable
Sure.
hands,
And if Schellenberger were
McIntosh
out,
would be on the bench
yeah, if Schellenberger were out, Sunderland probably would have gotten the start. So
for
it's a good
sure.
point. It's all personnel and matchups. It's very, very good point. So I'll pull back on my Kark praise and my Lars praise there.
Yeah,
Um,
Lars.
I'm
Um,
I'm going with I'm going with the Wahoos. I think just too much firepower.
Me too.
I
You
think
just put it
Maryland's
out there
good,
early.
and I think it'll be a tough game.
Our guy Xander Dixon just let us in on the whole scheme behind the Cavs offense, and it sounded just potent.
It really did. And this game's been circled for 365 days.
It was a bad. They got ran off the field
Twice, twice.
at Audi Stadium
Audi
last
at
year
Audi Field or whatever it's called, and then in the
in
tournament.
DC. Yeah, it was bad.
I think that was in Columbus.
Probably,
Second game.
but
Yeah, yeah, it's probably. Um, yeah, I think
yeah.
Virginia wins.
I mean,
Before we head out,
the first game, just to remind everyone what happened. 23-12, Maryland beat them.
wasn't the quarterfinal even worse?
The second game was 18-9.
Yeah,
You pick. Um,
tough.
yeah.
Before we head out, so
Hit
those
me.
are our picks for the weekend. Some PLL movement this week.
Dude, I like how they're doing the free agent stuff.
Post sixes, like we're just post sixes. Like
Yeah, it's
they're not staying out of the news for 2 months. Like they've got these kind of events and periods, free agency, sixes,
oh yeah, it's
gonna
thought
have the
out.
Olympics, the World Games, and then the PL. Like
They're
it's
going
good.
full steam ahead.
Yeah.
Do you see any that you liked or
I
thought were
mean, the
interesting?
biggest headliner to me is Mac O'Keefe going to the Archers, playing with reuniting with Grant Ament. I mean, I think that's going to be, to me, my most interesting storyline coming out of free agency. Loved watching those two at Penn State. Two of the, maybe one of the best duos I've ever seen.
Yep.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, they know where to find each other. I thought it was a great nod for the Cannons to sign Brody for another year.
Yeah.
Do I think he's capable? Yes. Do I think he's your best option? No. He kind of just like rogue slides and knows too much. Honestly, he's not really working in a unit, but he's everywhere and he's still a complete vacuum and the GOAT.
Yeah, you can still pick up GBs, get you extra possessions.
So get him another year. He's gonna blow out that record. I thought Will Manny going to the Whip Snakes was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a new look Archers.
Uh, where Holman went to the
And
Cannons.
go out of town as well. Yeah.
Uh, just a lot of interesting stuff. I think the Will Manning one to the Whip Snakes is gonna be interesting. This is a cat that was starting at attack, then got moved to midi, but made the All-Star game at attack. Then
His
wasn't
first half of the year last year was
then
insane.
then just got pulled for what's his name? Connor Fields.
Connor Fields.
Super weird coaching that was going on for the Archers. Not sure what Bates crazy shit he has going on, but yeah, the Manny to the Whip Snakes will be a very interesting one for me to watch because you have Rambo, you have Zed, and clearly they want just a nifty lefty that can finish and shoot and just feed off them. I like it too. I think he's going to be open a lot. I don't think any of the attackmen on the Archers were getting him open. So we'll see. He's great in transition. Whip Snakes love to push transition. The only push more with Roman Pugliese coming this season, was injured last season. I think the Whips make a serious comeback because they were kind of forgotten about last year with some injuries and stuff.
Agreed. They have the DNA.
But, yeah, I mean that must wrap up our time here with a little PLL talk. I like that little PLL talk at the end of the app.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate all of you. We'll be back next week.